So the next discussion that we have for today is going to be led by Frank Meehan. Frank, do you want to come to the front as the moderator with Sam Pearton, and I believe we have Nicholas DeSunas, but he might not be here, so it's going to be... It's Frank and Sam, because Nick... No, I'm going to let you guys handle it. It's going to be a lot of fun, one-on-one. Yes, for another continuation of the AI discussion, and, you know, I'll let you guys take it away. And panel sponsored by Nebius and Polyhedra.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Gabriel.
It's just the two of us. Hello, mate.
Hey,
how are
mate.
you? Yeah, good.
How we doing?
Yeah, very good. Excellent. Yes,
That's
very
good.
Firstly, I did a little bit of a chat GPT, since this is about AI, and I asked ChatGPT, what do you really think about Techtalia? It's really interesting. And it said, Techtalia leads hard into experience, luxury, and finesse. Think tech retreat meets culture salon with a dash of espresso. The vibe is elevated, curated, not just for learning, but for feeling something. So well done, Gabriel. That's, ChatGPT is loving you. What? Well, Grok, I'm not sure how friendly Grok's going to be, I don't think Grok's the... Yeah, I don't know. But anyway, congratulations to Gabriel for everything that he's done for Techtalia, and we'll talk about that. And also, it is always remarkable, I always think, that Gabriel has his co-founders always in the audience, with both Sam and Z here, right? Which is always impressive, because not many founders end up hanging together afterwards as much as these guys do. So that's always a good sign. We're here to talk about... Oh, and by the way, the other thing that was quite cool, I would say, was that it said that ambitious speaker lineup and themes with topics like AI, decentralization versus control, they're pushing towards future narratives. So it just picked out our talk.
Of course.
And ignored all the others. So, so we have to deliver. So why don't you tell us a little bit, Sam, about yourself, how you got here, and the future of AI, security, decentralization. Why are you so passionate about it?
Great. Well, thank you, Frank, man. It's an honor to be up here with you, and thanks, Gabrielle. This is an incredible event. So congrats, man. My story is, kind of fell into the AI compliance security space. Met a couple of PhDs who were working on kind of the software level of how to kind of verify these models. So, I've become obsessed with it, and you and I have had so many discussions about that. But it's like, at the moment, in terms of consumer AI and how fast things are moving, it's in my opinion, it's almost like cars before seatbelts, in terms of, we're kind of waiting for the crash. So, we've been very much looking at how to actually verify models fundamentally. So, for when a robot's in your house and you want to walk your dog around the street and your kids are there, that you make sure that the model actually hasn't been kind of tamper-proof or hacked. And a lot of this is kind of future tripping problems. But, we're seeing the acceleration happening so fast. I didn't think a year ago that we'd be at like agentic commerce. And, Stripe and OpenAI and, Shopify and whatnot just did that, big announcement last week. So, I think it's super topical. I think it goes down from the frontier one layer on the hardware side through to like how these models are deployed. But, the idea of where we're at in terms of how willing the kind of technology's going, especially when it's affecting so many consumers, and no one really has that kind of, I guess, trustless or third party. At the moment, it's like, trust me, bro, from Elon or Sam, right? what I think needs to happen, or, I think a lot of us think that needs to happen in this space, is that we need some systems in place that are kind of tamper-proof, and that's where kind of cryptography can play a massive part.
Yeah. So I think one of the ways I always think about decentralization and AI is that crypto gave you personal control over your digital finance in a way, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it gave you digital finance, personal control over that, and decentralized AI gives you an opportunity to have personal control over your digital intelligence, right? And you've got the ability to link a wallet to an AI agent that is very personal to you.
Yeah.
But that leads to enormous security implications, and the cost of doing that is also very high in terms of protecting that on an individual level. One of the advantages of doing it at a centralized level is the cost is much lower, the security can be controlled. Decentralizing it has two problems in that area.
No, absolutely. I think there's a misconception between decentralization and, cryptographic as well. I think, cryptographic's already playing quite a large part in centralized systems, such as, technology like trusted encrypted environments, TEEs, that are used across from everyone from NVIDIA to Microsoft to all the big players. And then we've got decentralization. And, if you look at what, using OpenAI's and Sam Altman as an example, they have closed models, which has been able to attract so much capital, because there's an outcome there, and there's the control and a profitable outcome. They've just launched some small open source models, which I think are so important for innovation and making the dev community feel involved in the kind of process. And then he has, like what Robbie from Animoca and these guys are doing, WorldCoin, which is fundamentally a decentralized identity business. And I think where the decentralization in I'm fine with all that stuff. I think there needs to be guardrails, but in terms of like our personal sovereignty, like identity, in the age of AI, in the age of everyone have seen Sora come out last week, there's going to be so many more Sybil attacks, deep fakes, all this stuff kind of entering our lives. We're going to have to prove we're human. We're also going to have to give our agents identity. So like all of this stuff that that is very personal, I think that needs to fundamentally operate in a decentralized environment. And then on the cryptographic side, you mentioned finance and wallets. I just don't think traditional banking rails can handle agentic commerce. So we're already seeing that with stablecoins and AI are kind of going hand in hand, right? So yeah, man, it's a patchwork of things coming together, but I think collectively they all have their place.
Yep. Now, who's got a question for us about who would actually use their own personal AI agent? Yeah. Only two people, that would be Z and Sam down the front. Okay. That's great, guys. Well done. And would you share your agent together? Or no, you're just good. But, well, that's one of the biggest questions, right? The expense. Yeah.
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 Yeah, I mean, it's getting cheaper. I mean, but we're still, I don't think we've leveled out yet. And we talk about models. I mean, Frank and I both have spent significant time in Asia. I met with the DeepSeek team earlier in the year. It's the race for the cheapest. But that hasn't leveled out of actually, like a panelist said either, we're not really getting true information on actually what the Chinese models are costing, or, true insights to how cheap it is. And Frank, what Frank and T are building at Frontier One, and Frank's work at Nebius being at that lower level of compute, getting closer to that side, it's almost like that needs to be solved before then there can be clear kind of pricing structures of what this looks like long term. At the moment, I just feel like it's, it's basically everything's being accelerated at rapid speeds, and yeah, we just haven't ironed out exactly what those costs are going to probably look like when things have to switch from hype to probably more so sustainable business.
Especially on a personal level. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Because $200 a month, Yeah.
Like
I subscribe obviously to certain things that cost that amount to to fuel my workflows and just more so out of research as well. But that's not, this is not sustainable.
No. Has anyone else got any like from a decentralization? See, what do you think about it?
Well, I feel there's the question of, I don't want to blow out the topic too much, but then there's sovereignty, but also sovereignty of our ability to live lives independent of tools, right? So the reliance of an agent, if there's a power outage, do we just go back to the Stone Age, or do we constitute ourselves because?
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, again, I've had these conversations with Frank. It's getting that energy layer, and I've learned that a lot from my discussions with Frank. It's almost like, how do we become sustainable in energy first? The current grid system, I mean, I'm not well versed enough, but I'm versed enough that, if we make ourselves, like you mentioned, 100% reliant on technology to do every
Especially if it
menial
gets
task.
hacked. And then you've got to take it down.
Sure.
And then you've got to
100%.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the critical things. It's one of the things that I think, from an AI perspective, the difference between the way AI infrastructure and cloud infrastructure is that cloud infrastructure is a monolith. It's AWS from top to bottom, or it's GCP from top to bottom. But AI is completely different. It's an ecosystem, right? You have someone's building the data centers, and that's, the security around that is really interesting. And then we have, what chips do we have? Do we have NVIDIA chips, or do we have AMD chips, or we have a mixture of both? And then we have the cloud. We have Nebius, which, I am advising and is the best AI cloud in the business by far. But then you've also got OpenAI and everything else, and you've got tools, etc. So it's just this huge stack of things, and the vulnerability of that is high. And I think that's what you guys were doing with the CKML and everything in terms of wrapping it around an AI, and just in general, I think is a
it's so funny when you say that, Frank. And the end consumer, all they care about is performance and price, or price and performance. So, as an industry, it's like, how are all these, because it hasn't been, it's so broad because it's, with what Frontier One are doing with actually sovereign AI, who's owning it's technology as a commodity for the first time, would you say?
I think so. Yep.
Is that correct?
Yep.
I think. So, all the way through to then how do we secure that? There's a data level, there's, we're combining finance and financial systems in that, and complete globalization. It's a very complex, it's an incredibly complex piece of the puzzle. But what a time to be building and to be alive.
It is pretty fun. Anyone else got any questions? Yeah.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we can definitely.
Forgive me if the premise of this question is wrong, feel free to push back on it. But so I send my agent out into the world. I make a James Kotecki agent, I send it out into the world to do something for me.
Yep.
But why stop with it just being a replica of my sorry, let me ask it again. Is this even on?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So let's say I send my James Kotecki agent out into the world, and it's a pretty good facsimile of my brain. Why stop with that? Why not add to that brain the sum totality of all human knowledge and baseline ChatGPT and every other person's agent, and combine that into a super agent? I guess I'm just wondering, it's a perception question, but at what point, because it seems like the answer is very quickly, does this cease to become in any useful sense a James Kotecki facsimile or copy, or are we conceiving of these things as still somehow tied to my identity in any way?
I think it comes down to your personal preference, or what the output of that agent specifically needs to be, and then that comes down to the training and the inputs and the inference. So, it's a really good question. I mean, I worked, prior to this, I worked in celebrity and talent IP in the technology space, and saw how time poor IP is. It's going to be very interesting to see, if Cristiano Ronaldo, for instance, doesn't have to do any advertisements anymore, he just uses Sora, how will that expand different IP? So, man, you're a great talker, great podcaster. I'm sure it'll be very interesting how you use, you're using, so put it this way, you use Sora potentially in a year, 2 years to actually do what you did today. you train all the language, all the questions based around you, and then fundamentally, hopefully, and I think Robbie will get to this as well, then you have people, you can utilize the blockchain actually to stamp that that's actually you, and that's your IP.
Because it's really important. Like you got it, because we can have like James clones running around all over the place. So it's like, it's the lockdown and it's the proof and it's that this is it. And like, WorldCoin is, proof of human, but it really is proof of AI, right?
Yeah, that's the next one, man. AI. And I think they're probably working on that, like proof of AI agents.
Proof of AI agents,
keeps going down the line. Yeah.
We had another question out the back. It was, yeah, mate. Yeah.
You mentioned storing data, personal data. Where would you store it for, or where would I be allowed to store it, and how would you secure it?
Well, that's, there's I mean, the most kind of prominent thing that people are looking at is trusted encrypted environments, which is basically it's a subset of a data center that's basically yours, or through another cryptographic technique called multi-party computation, MPC. So, there's no, I think a lot of, Frank got it right. I mean, I don't think there's any real, people are trying a lot of things to protect their personal sovereignty and how that makes sense. They're probably two of the most leading ways that I've seen, are seemingly getting traction, but I think there's still a long way to go on that front.
So like decentralized MPC type of technologies?
Sure, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fine. Yeah.
The issue with the decentralized piece is still why that's getting nowhere near as much traction as the centralized piece is just lack of funding. There's just
Did you say like decentralized, like non-player character type stuff, or
decentralized MPC?
Oh,
multi-party computation.
But then also, is that something people understand or care about? They just want to hear you say it's secure and safe. And
that's the thing. I mean, I think when AI's all through our hospitals, when a robot murders someone, I think people are going to start to care.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Well, that's grim. But dear idea, you've been watching the wrong shows, mate. But anyway, but it's very possible. Yes, it is.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Where's that robot going to come from, though? Yeah.
I don't know. Is it Tesla? Is it? No.
Anyone else got a couple of questions before we wrap this up? Because it is always a very big question around decentralization and centralization of AI. The key really is everything going in from a centralization perspective does lower the cost, but in a way, a central AI is going to think for you, right? It's going to almost steer you and guide you, and sometimes there's an issue with that, right? There is the sum total of human knowledge, as James said, but there is an issue with that, right?
Oh, for sure.
Where do you land on it in this?
Yeah, I really think the best use case for decentralization in AI is the identity piece. I can't see, I mean, what just happened in Switzerland, I don't know if it went through or didn't, but it was borderline in terms of the national the digital passports. Like, all of this stuff is just going to become so contentious, and I think as society, we're going to think, I don't want people to, to own my identity in this new age. This is the most important thing. We've got robots doing everything for us. My identity needs to stay kind of on some type of decentralized architecture. But, it's, as we said, man, it's a super interesting early stage, and it's going to be interesting how it all pans out.
Yeah, as long as those robots don't come too close. Thank you very much, Sam.
Thank you so much, Frank.
We wrapped it up, but thank you very much, guys.
Thanks, man.
Thank you, Sam. Thank you, Frank.